Welcome to the Idea Climbing Podcast. I want to get this right. Designing and living your ideal life is possible if you have the right strategies. A big part of that is creating fulfillment in your own life while positively impacting the world around you. In this episode, I discuss how to do just that with my guest, Mo Salami. Mo is a high performance coach and international keynote speaker. He speaks multiple languages, fluent in English, French, Spanish, and Brazilian Portuguese. Mo is a former senior mentor for world class peak performance guru Tony Robbins. Whilst part of his California based team, Mo generated tens of millions of dollars in sales for Tony Robbins events worldwide. Mo has done over 20,000 hours of one on one consulting, including consulting with over 8,000 business owners doing $1 million a year in revenue or more. We dive into topics including the three-prong approach for designing your ideal life, when the tough times hit, how to keep on keeping on mentally and otherwise, how to blend fulfillment and financial success, the one thing above all else that you need to do to design your ideal life, and more golden nuggets of advice. You're going to love this show. Mo, thank you for making the time to be on the Idea Climbing Podcast. I appreciate you.
Mark, it is an honor to be on the podcast. Thank you so much for the invitation. And like I mentioned on our pre-chat, I've listened to so many episodes at this point and looking forward to a great one today.
It's going to be, and I have to read this. We're going to talk about how to create impact, fulfillment, and design your ideal life. Before we get into the tips, the tactics, the strategies, first, I'd love to know, when it comes to designing your ideal life, how did you learn how to do that? How did you do it? What's your story in that world?
So I'm going to have to answer that by giving how I got here, my origin story, if you will, if I can share. So
Yes.
for myself personally, I came from a whole nother world. The turning point for me came from seeing a sign. And before we get to the sign, I'll give this some context. So I'm from a family where having a degree is just the whole grail of holy grail, if you will, of success, and preferably a degree in the sciences. So I did that. I got 3 degrees, and I started my career in the medical field, and bought a nice house and a nice neighborhood, got a nice car, all that great stuff. The challenge was my nice six-figure salary came with 16-hour work days. So I had no experiences, no free time, no me time, and that was it. But luckily, Mark, I was successful. I get to the end of the year, and my year is just this blur of 16-hour shifts. And I was a bit confused because I was successful, but I didn't know. I was a bit, unsure. Then one day I was in a bookstore in central London, and I saw a sign, and the sign said, "How to be successful." And it turns out the sign was an ad for a book called The Success Principles by Jack Canfield. So I grabbed hold of the book and I started reading it right there and then. And then with time, a very short amount of time, by the way, I read every single book listed in the back of the Success Principles. And the fork in the road I had was, do I stick to my path of apparent success that I was already on? Or do I pursue this actual success that I had just discovered? I pursued. So I traveled to Europe, USA, Canada, Asia, wherever. Like, who is the best in the world? And I want to learn from them, whatever the cost, whatever the distance, I'm going to be there. So very soon I got a measure of expertise in online business, sales and marketing, personal development, and public speaking. And I even went to work for Tony Robbins for 8 years as a senior mentor. And in that role, I helped a lot of, very high achievers, aspirants get to that very next level as well. And it was a sales role in addition. So I had the opportunity to put all the learning I did in sales into practice. One of the highlights was doing $1 million of sales in a 90-day period, so in 3 months. And so thousands and thousands and thousands of opportunities to help people get to the next level. And what I discovered was apparent success is when somebody else decides what success means for you, whereas actual success is success that you decide on your terms. And it's just as simple as that. And what I do today is that I help people get to their own purpose-driven success. You know, we've called it lifestyle design. We can also call it your own purpose-driven success. So I help people with that, and that's via your own impact and your own fulfillment, using that as a combination, impact via online business, fulfillment being personal development coaching, using that as a twin, if you will, to get to design the exact lifestyle that you want. So that's the sort of how I got here.
How did you make that pivot? You have success in a traditional sense. You make the pivot that you said to the self-design success. How did you make that pivot? You just quit your job one day and say, I'm off and running? Did you have to wane off the other job before you got to the new one and working with people like Tony Robbins? What was that pivot? What did that look like from traditional to
Pivot,
design?
the pivot was instantaneous. There wasn't, I didn't even think about it. It was just an instantaneous pivot. And I guess what had helped me was, or should I say that, well, the pivot was instant. It was literally that sign. Because I saw it, I got my first degree when I was 20 years old. I just turned 20. I finished a whole college degree, the first one. And in your mind, because that's the only world I knew, I was successful and that was it. And that was the definition. You know, how naive of me, right? And now when I saw that sign, how to be successful, I was really confused. What is that all about? And then I discovered this whole nother world I knew nothing about. So the pivot was instant. Like I looked at the front of the book, okay, The Success Principles by Jack Canfield. I had a look at the chapters, okay, these are the different areas. Then I went to the back of the book and I saw this huge list of all these other books, and I just read all of them. And the pivot was just, how do I get to be the best in this brand new, brave new world that I've discovered? And on reflection, it's not because I want to be better than anyone else. It was more so, how do I become the very, very best version of myself to help me help other people to the best of my ability? That was more the drive to be the best so that I can be the best I can be in terms of helping others. But again, the pivot was instant. And I think another piece of the pivot was that sometimes when you go, by the way, I'm quote unquote successful on this wall and serving others in every capacity is a great thing. And you go, well, I want to also find success on this wall over there. We kind of shrug our shoulders, head down, because we're going to start all the way from the bottom on the other wall. But in reality, all the skill sets and the mindsets and the competencies that you have over here, you just need to adjust them a tiny bit to now use them over here. So you're not
Mm.
starting from the bottom, you're starting from, if you've been successful, how you do anything is how you do everything, right? One of my mentors would say. So if you have had a lot of success over here, it stands to reason that you can also have that over here, just with a little tweaks of the actual competencies that you have right now.
So when you decide to make the pivot, how do you, what's the starting point of designing your ideal life?
The starting point of designing your ideal lifestyle is, well, there's kind of a three-pronged approach. And step number one is decide. Like, what does that look like for me? If I take away any disempowering beliefs, what does my ideal lifestyle look like? And then just sort of decide on the fact that you're going to go for it and to clarify it as well. Sorry,
Mhm.
decide that you're going to go for it and clarify what that looks like are steps A and B. And the third step is to move in the direction of that. So I always say, always move in the direction of the result you want before you see the result you want. And here's why. When you make the decision that I'm just going to go for my own purpose-driven success or my own ideal lifestyle, it's kind of scary, yes or yes.
Yes, yes.
There is so many factors that don't even involve just you if you're as an adult, as a responsible adult. Like it's kind of scary. So you made the decision, just decide and then get clear. And then when you get clear, is everything, even though you're clear on what that looks like, are all the puzzle pieces in place yet, Mark? Even though you're clear what you want.
No, they're not in place yet, I would imagine.
Right. So there's still so much indecision. And then now you've just got to point in the direction of the success you want. And because you've decided and you're clear, you are going to make your way towards the success you want. And as you do that journey, you grow as a person. And as you grow as a person, there might be other doors of opportunity and growth and impact that you weren't even aware of when you were here. And then when you get there, they might be. So I guess my point is
Mhm.
that the finish line will look very different to what you thought it would when you're at the starting line. But it is so important not to go, do you know, I'm going to take 20 years to figure out exactly what that looks like first and then get started. It's just about instantaneously making a decision, getting really clear on what that looks like, then always move in the direction of the success that you want, of the result you want before you see the result you want.
Once you start moving, a lot of doors are going to show themselves. How do you know which opportunities to take advantage of and what to say no to? Because there's so many things you could do. I mean, you're clear, let's say you're clear, you get moving, you're on your way. So many things pop up in front of you that you could, I'll use because you use the word, so many doors pop up in front of you that you could open. How do you know what opportunities to take advantage of and embrace?
I love that question so much. And because you're so clear what you want, all of a sudden, other shiny, what do you, shiny objects we call them,
Mhm.
will come into play. But the question then is this advancing me towards what I want or not? And if it's not, then it's probably not for the best. For example, the day you decide, the next day you could get a job opportunity. For example, we love jobs, they're amazing, right? And it could be X number of, you insert the wage that you want, X number of benefits and this, that, and the other, but there are handcuffs, like golden handcuffs involved, so to speak. And you just have to do that. You can't really pursue what you want to do. So on the one hand, it's possibly an amazing opportunity. On the other hand, is that part of your bigger vision? Like, does that take you into that direction? Um, another, I guess, thought could be you could get an opportunity where you're learning a skill set, how to sell, how to speak on the stage, how to insert something else that's part of your jigsaw puzzle. And that could be an amazing opportunity because all of a sudden you're training today for who you will be tomorrow. And that's something that you need. So I think when you're so crystal clear on what it is that you want, what you do not want, it kind of just elegantly falls away. Even if in that moment it's such an amazing, seemingly amazing opportunity, perhaps, but if long term it's not, then I wonder if that's not for the best.
Along the way of your journey, and you had mentioned that you had six success, but you had 16-hour days. I'm guessing not much fulfillment. When you're on your journey, how do you match, I'll say blend. How do you blend fulfillment and financial success? Because they do not always go together. And fulfillment could lead to not making a lot of money. Financial success could lead to not having a lot of fulfillment. How do you combine the two?
I think you get really real, and forgive me for saying this, and non-woo-woo, as in you need to understand that there are bills to meet, a certain lifestyle you have already to sustain, so income has to come in. So what I'd actually recommend for most people is to transition. If you do make a decision, it's probably not for the best to just drop everything and I'm just going to go for this thing, but to naturally transition across where the what you were making over here gets replaced over here and then some before you fully transition. So, we've all heard the whole 9 to 5, and then you get home and do the 5 to 9 analogy. It's pretty much that. So the the financial part is so important and so real and shouldn't be overshadowed with wanting to be that starving artist. I'm chasing my purpose and all this other stuff, which is great, but it has to be done bearing in mind that that we're adults, right?
So when you're going, everything's not going to, you're on your journey, everything's not going to be unicorns and rainbows. When the tough times hit, how do you keep on keeping on, mentally and otherwise?
The way to keep on keeping on is constantly working on your mindset. It's so important. I always talk about working on your skill set. Your skill set is that skill that you're giving to the world. Maybe I'll use my world right now. Maybe you're a keynote speaker, or you have an online business or an offline business, or you're a coach, for example. So really hone in and how do I become the best in the world at what I do? For the purpose of service and serving your clients and your craft. So there's that part of the skill set. Even if you have the successity, 80%, 90% of what you do will be down to your mindset. So it's just that constantly working on that mindset piece um, on a constant basis. And um, so, for example, I'm going to share. Can I share like 3 R's to reset your mindset?
That would be awesome.
Awesome. And again, I just want to be so clear that with what we're discussing, this is something that's really real in terms of very few people will sort of lean into what they want to be. And again, I was actually having a conversation recently with a host, and she mentioned that as a author, as a keynote speaker, as a coach and mentor, she was doing exactly what she felt like she should be doing in life. And she has, a college degree and all these other bits and bobs in the background. So with all what we're mentioning today, that's what I'm talking about. But if there's this other thing that you think, oh, I would quite like to do that, is to really go for it. And again, the mindset piece will take you out of the game if you're not careful, unless you grab a pen and paper and write down the 3 R's to reset your mindset right now. So the first one is to reframe. The first R is reframe. So when you're met with, you know, disempowering beliefs, reframe to how can I do that? Versus what's the opposite of how can I do that, Mike? I'm so positive minded. I can't even think of the opposite. But reframe to how can I get it done versus it's impossible.
Mm.
You know, the second R to reset your mindset is to rewire. For example, when you're faced with how will this go? Will this go well? Will this not go well? What about if you said to yourself, what if, what would need to happen for this to be the best performance session in the history of any session that's ever been done in the history of this craft I'm about to do? You might not achieve that, but you will achieve a lot higher than you would have if you didn't have that thought process. And all of a sudden, you're so far away from will it go well, will it not? And so it's reframe and rewire. And I just want to give an example. So I speak English, French, Spanish, Portuguese, for example. And when I started learning, let me think about this. When I started learning Spanish, I said to myself, how can I learn this language so I speak it better than anyone who's ever spoken Spanish in the history of this language? And by the way, how can I learn it in a year? So I failed. I became fluent in Spanish in 1 year and 2 months. But my outcome wasn't to be fluent or, hey, say a few random words here and there. It was, how can I become the very best at this, better than even natives? Now, am I better than natives? Is that what I actually want? What I actually want is to reset my mindset um, for high performance. And so we've done reframe and rewire. And the third one is remember. And in order to illustrate remember, can I share a story? I'll tell you what remember is and share like a little story about it. Is that okay?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So I'll share the story and then I'll end it by saying what I mean by remember. So when I was 8 years old, my grandma said to me, you know, I think you're the most intelligent man I have ever met, and I think you'll do well. When my grandma said that, I panicked for two reasons. One, because what my grandma didn't realize was I was just 8 years old. I literally wasn't even a man yet. And secondly, sure, I would do the best I could consistently at school with my homework or similar, but there was no way I was the most intelligent. And so when my grandma said that, I sort of sat up straight and puffed out my chest and I said in the deeper voice I could, "Hey, Grandma, what you talking about?" Because I really wanted to step into this version of me that my grandma had prescribed. And, years later, when I had to speak in front of a French-speaking audience on a stage in French, in France, or working in sales, when I had to do $80,000 of sales in the next 48 hours to get to $1 million of sales for the quarter, or today as a coach, if I have to lead someone or teach someone or inspire someone, I can always tap into my maximum version of me, my maximum potential, because I will remember that one person who believed in me and who said to me, you know, I think you're the most intelligent man I've ever met, and I think you'll do well. So remember that one person who believed in you and use that as an anchor for your mindset for when you have to step into high performance. So there's those three R's to reset your mindset of reframe, rewire, and remember. And these you can use instantaneously in the moment when you have to sort of step up or even on a continuous basis.
That is awesome. We have covered a lot of ground in a short period of time. When it comes to designing your ideal life, impact, fulfillment, if someone's listening or watching, like, I love it. I'd love to be on that journey. If you were to say, if you want to be on that journey and succeed at that journey, you have to do at least this one thing. At least this one thing. What would you say they have to do?
You'd have to you'd have to work on your mindset, work on your skill set, and then always move in the direction of the result you want before you see the result you want is what I would say you'd need to do. A lot of this, I've said the word mindset so much because when you're when you're really stepping into purpose-driven success, that's another way of saying your ideal lifestyle, like the success you want that's on your purpose and it's what you want. When you're stepping into that, you're stepping so far away from your comfort zone, so the body's natural mark is it to keep us in our comfort zone or outside of our comfort zone?
Oh, definitely keep us in our comfort zone.
Right. So when you're in that moment of stepping up, there's different systems within the brain that sort of go, wait, by the way, get back into that comfort zone. There's cookies and there's chocolate in there, right? So it's all about like really embracing the joy of the feelings that you have when you step out of your comfort zone. And can I share, Mark, just one more strategy that
Heck
I
yeah.
think is pretty important for your listeners as well.
Do it.
So again, when it's that moment, and again, I'm going to use my world if I could,
Hmm.
when it's that moment to step on stage or to uh, jump on a show or to, you know, insert, your version as you're listening to this, at times you'll feel like a trepidation, and that's because the part of your brain that wants you to stay comfortable becomes alarmed. What's going on? And it's because hundreds of years ago, when you're trying to step up, the stakes are so high. Maybe you're going to be eaten by what do they have back there? A mammoth or something, or chased by a
Saber-tooth
saber-toothed
tiger.
tiger. That's the example we always give, the saber-toothed tiger. So what happens is the part of your brain, and we'll call it the cautious friend part of your brain puts you into survival mode. You're wanting to thrive. It's putting you into survival mode. So maybe your your heart's beating in your chest, you're frozen, you feel panicked, your hands are shaking. There's all sorts of things going on. Here's you wanting to thrive and grow, which we all do, but your brain, which is wired from, centuries ago, is trying to keep you safe. So the cautious friend part of the brain is trying to keep you safe. But what we want is the coach part of your brain to thrive. If the coach part of your brain can elevate, all of a sudden it focuses in on the result you want, cuts out all the noise and the distraction, just focuses in on the result you want. So in that scenario, and it's normal, here's what you do. And it's another three-part strategy. So, and it takes 60 seconds. So you can do this at any time at the moment of high performance. So step number one is to breathe. So inhale for four seconds, hold for 2 seconds, exhale for 4 seconds. So how many seconds is that total? 4, 4, 2, 10 seconds. So essentially you're just breathing for 4 seconds. And what you're doing is you're calming your fight or flight response in the body. You're telling the cautious brain part of the cautious friend part of your brain, it's okay, we're safe. There are no saber-toothed tigers, we're good, you know? So all of a sudden, your body sort of relaxes, goes from fight or flight to rest and relaxation. The coach part of your brain is able to activate you for high performance, and it sort of remembers like the best version of you. So the step number one was to breathe. Step number two was to believe. So for 20 seconds, just think about to yourself that I've done hard things before. Maybe even think of a hard thing you've done before, so I can do hard things again. Maybe it's this very activity, stepping on the stage or similar. You've done it before. You can do it again, making a sale or similar. I've done that before. I can do it again. So sort of recall that in your mind and believe I've done this before. I can do it again. And again, what that does is it activates the coach part of your brain that recalls how you did it before. Boom. And it goes towards getting you that result. So that was breathe, 10 seconds, believe, 10 seconds. The third part is become. And this takes 30 seconds. Now, become is when visualize that activity happening in real time perfectly, checking off all the boxes, all the traffic lights turning green, crossing all the T's, dotting all the I's. Perfect. Voila. And that activates a part of your brain that helps you with a flow state where everything just falls in place as it should. So again, that's just a 60-second exercise, 10 seconds breathe, 20 seconds believe, 30 seconds of become, where you can just activate maximum and high performance. And again, these are strategies that are very needed if you're going to design your ideal lifestyle and the purpose-driven success that you deserve.
This has been excellent. If people want to learn more and find you online, where's the best place or places to go?
If you have found value in this episode and you want to step into your success, step into your fulfillment, go to mosalami.com/free call. Let's jump on a free call or go to the website itself, mosalami.com.
This has been excellent. Thank you again, Mo. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much for the invitation. Have an amazing one, Mark.
And scene.